Welcome back, you night owls. Tonight we're not in our own cosy beds, but in a world far removed from thermostats and duvets. Picture yourself not in your modern home, but in a small windowless hut, somewhere in medieval Europe. The year is, let's say 1350. You've just finished a long, grueling day in the fields, your body aches, and the sun has long since vanished beyond the horizon. The only light and warmth beckoning you is a low, flickering glow coming from a small wattle and daub hovel on the edge of the village. The cold is a living thing, a biting presence that nips at your exposed skin, and you probably won't survive this for more than a few winters. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into the hut and the first thing that hits you isn't the warmth, but the smell. It's a thick, almost edible aroma of wood smoke and a dozen other things we'll get to later. Your eyes sting a little as they adjust to the dim light, and you can just make out the source of that inviting glow. The hearth. This isn't a stone fireplace with a chimney that you're used to. Oh no, this is just a shallow depression in the centre of the hut's packed earth floor, a simple bowl of dirt and stones where a fire smoulders. It is, for all intents and purposes, the heart of your home. Everything revolves around it. It's your kitchen, your heater, your light source, and your social hub. It's also, let's be honest, your mortal enemy. You crouch down, the embers casting dancing shadows on your weary face, and carefully nudge a half-burned log with a stick. A puff of smoke billows up, carrying with it a cloud of ash, and an ancient memory of the forest it came from. The heat that radiates from the hearth is localized, a small bubble of warmth that your body desperately tries to soak up. It's not enough to warm the entire hut, but it's just enough to take the sharpest edge off the cold. This is your reality, a constant negotiation with the elements, a daily ritual of feeding the flames to keep the darkness and the frost at bay. The hearth is a living thing that you must nurture and respect. You can't just let it go out, not ever. If the fire dies, you face a miserable morning of trying to spark a new one with a flint and steel, or worse, begging a neighbour for an ember. The latter is a walk of shame in a society where self-sufficiency is paramount. So, you've learned the trick, banking the fire at night. You carefully cover the glowing coals with a layer of ash. This isn't just a simple action, it's a craft. Too much ash and the fire smothers. Too little and it burns out. But get it just right, and the embers will hold their heat, a low, pulsing warmth that promises life in the morning. This constant management of the fire is a dance you do throughout your waking hours. You can't just dump a fresh log on it. You have to find just the right piece of wood, dry and seasoned. You've become an expert at knowing which branches will give a long, steady burn and which will just hiss and pop with a pathetic burst of steam. This knowledge, passed down from your elders, is a survival skill, far more valuable than any book learning. Historians still argue whether the wood supply was truly communal or if individual families had to forage their own, leading to fierce territorial disputes. Whatever the case, you know that every dry twig and fallen branch you find is a treasure. The smoke is the hearth's second face, and it's a cruel one. With no chimney, the smoke simply rises, swirling lazily through the hut before eventually finding its way out through the one or two holes in the thatched roof. Or it doesn't. Often, it just hangs in the air, a thick grey miasma that stings your eyes and catches in the back of your throat. This isn't a one-time thing, this is every single day. You breathe this in from the moment you wake up to the moment you drift off to sleep. It's the price of warmth. A quirky tidbit of history is that this constant exposure to smoke actually led to a sort of fire blindness in some people, where the repeated irritation of their eyes led to chronic inflammation and vision problems. It's not just a minor inconvenience, it's a genuine occupational hazard of being a medieval peasant. You watch the flickering flames, their light playing on the faces of your family members huddled around you, your wife, mending a tear in a rough-spun tunic, your son, asleep already, his cheek resting on a pile of straw, your daughter, her small hands warming over the embers. This is the centre of your universe, a small glowing beacon of life against the vast cold darkness of the world outside. The hearth is not just a heat source, It is a point of connection. It's where stories are told, where food is prepared, where the day's triumphs and tribulations are recounted. You might be cold, you might be hungry, but for a few hours each night you are not alone. The low thrum of the fire, the crackle of the wood, the soft hiss of a knot of sap releasing its last bit of moisture, these are the sounds of your home. They are as familiar to you as the beating of your own heart. They are a lullaby, a promise that you will not freeze in the dark. As the night deepens, you add one last log, just a small one, and you lie down, your feet still aching, your body still cold, but your spirit a little more at ease. The hearth is your shield, your comfort, your whole world. It is a constant reminder that life is a fragile thing, and survival is a daily, often painful art. You drift off to sleep to the rhythmic crackle, a sound that promises another day. You wake with a start, the fire a dim orange eye in the dark, and a chill seeping into your bones. It's not a sudden shock of cold, it's a slow, insidious creep that you've come to know intimately. It seems to come from everywhere, a testament to the less than perfect engineering of your home. You shift, pulling a rough woolen blanket tighter around you, and your hand brushes against the wall. It's rough and uneven, a patchwork of sticks and mud, the very skin of your hut. This is your defence against the world, and it is a fragile one. The walls are made of what's known as wattle and daub. The wattle part is the framework, a skeleton of thin branches and saplings woven together like a giant messy basket. You and your family would have spent days, maybe even weeks, out in the nearby coppice, cutting the slender, flexible wood, tying it into bundles and hauling it back. This was not a quick job. It was a communal effort, a repetitive, back-breaking task of weaving, pushing and pulling until you had a sturdy, lattice-like structure. Think of it less as a wall and more as a dense, living fence that you've wrapped around yourself. Once the wattle frame was up, then came the daub. This is where the real fun began. The daub is a mix of things you'd probably rather not think about. Clay, soil, straw, and sometimes, and this is a delightful little detail, animal dung. You'd mix it all together with water until you had a thick, sticky goo that was just right for slathering onto the woven branches. You'd scoop up handfuls of the stuff, smelling of earth and other less pleasant things, and smear it into the gaps, pushing and patting and smoothing it until the wattle was completely covered. The straw in the mix was key. It acted like a kind of rebar, strengthening the daub and helping to prevent it from cracking as it dried. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds, well, kind of primitive. And you'd be right. But it worked mostly. A well-made daub wall dried in the summer sun could be surprisingly tough. It was a decent windbreak and for the most part kept out the worst of the rain. A mainstream historical fact is that wattle and daub construction was not just a medieval peasant thing, it was used for thousands of years across many different cultures because the materials were cheap and abundant. Anyone with a little time and a lot of mud could build a hut. But here's the problem. It's not great at keeping heat in. The daub, when it dries, is full of tiny little cracks. You can't see them all, but the wind can find them. The walls are not airtight, not by a long shot. On a cold, blustery night like this one, you can feel the air currents, little icy fingers that slip through the walls and find their way to your sleeping body. It's a constant, silent battle. You've probably tried to plug the biggest holes with more mud, but it's a losing game. The daub cracks, the branches shift, and the elements always find a way in. Historians still argue whether peasants would have regularly redaubed their huts, or if it was an annual chore, or something only done when the holes became truly unmanageable. The truth is likely somewhere in between, dependent on the weather and the family's energy. It's a job that's never truly finished. Just when you think you've plugged every last gap, a new one appears. It's a quirky tidbit that sometimes, after a heavy rain, the daub would get a little soft and start to crumble away, turning your walls into a soupy mess. That's when the real panic would set in, because a crumbling wall meant a direct invitation for the cold. Another issue with your walls? They're an absolute haven for vermin. The woven branches and mud provide perfect nooks and crannies for mice and rats to burrow into. You'll hear them at night, a constant rustling and scratching inside the walls, little feet skittering just inches from your head. Sometimes you'll feel a particularly bold one trying to gnaw its way through to the inside, and you'll pound the wall with your fist hoping to scare it off. A fun little detail is that sometimes You'd even find a small snake curled up in the wattle, taking advantage of the insulation for a warm winter nap. It adds a certain element of surprise to your home. The wattle and daub hut is a monument to necessity and resourcefulness. It's not a place of comfort, but it is a place of shelter. It keeps out the wolves and the rain, and it gives you a place to light a fire. But it doesn't solve the fundamental problem of winter. The cold is a force of nature, and your walls, no matter how carefully built, are no match for it. As you lie there, listening to the wind whistle through a new gap in the daub, you think about the straw you've stuffed in there. That was a good idea, wasn't it? The straw helps a little, but the wind, it seems, has an endless supply of patience. It finds the weakest points, the tiniest chinks in your armour, and it pushes and pushes until it has made its home inside yours. Remember that feeling of being a helpless victim to the elements. It's a feeling that will stay with you every night for the rest of the winter. Your home, this simple, humble structure, is both your saviour and your constant source of stress. It's a promise of warmth that it can't quite keep, a barrier against the cold that is riddled with holes. You close your eyes, trying to block out the chill that is slowly but surely seeping through the walls, and you listen to the rhythmic scratching of a mouse, content in its little mud nest, and you envy its small, simple life. Your home is a testament to the fact that survival is a continuous process of mending and maintaining. There is no ultimate solution, just a series of temporary fixes against a world that is always trying to undo them. The walls are a constant conversation with the wind, and on nights like this the wind is doing most of the talking. The chill from the walls is a constant low-grade hum, but there's another, more immediate threat, the roof. You can hear it now, a soft pitter-patter against the straw just above your head. It's not a hard rain, but a persistent drizzle, and you hold your breath, listening for the telltale drip. The thatched roof is a beautiful rustic piece of engineering from the outside, but from within, it's a source of constant anxiety. Your roof is a thick layer of straw, reeds, or sometimes heather, all meticulously layered and tied down with ropes or withes. Building it was a monumental task. You would have harvested the straw at the end of the summer, bundles of golden stalks smelling of sunshine and earth. A mainstream historical fact is that a well-made thatched roof was surprisingly effective at shedding water, as the water would flow down the sloping surface without penetrating the thick layers of straw. It's also an excellent insulator, trapping air within the straw to create a thermal barrier, in theory. In reality, your roof is a little bit more lived in. It has its flaws. For one, it's a constant battle against the wind. A strong gust can lift a section of thatch, leaving a gaping hole for the rain and cold to rush in. You've learned to dread the sound of a storm, knowing that it means you'll have to get up in the middle of the night to patch a new leak, fumbling in the dark with wet straw and chilled fingers. Historians still argue whether villagers had a dedicated roofer or if every peasant family was expected to be a master of thatch repair, a little bit of both perhaps, but you know that in your village you're on your own. And then there's the wildlife. The thatched roof is a 5-star hotel for a whole ecosystem of creatures. Birds love to nest in it, their constant chirping and rustling a familiar nighttime sound. You can often feel their little movements just inches from your head, and occasionally a bird will get stuck inside the weave, its frantic fluttering a momentary alarm. But the most unwanted tenants are the vermin. Mice, rats, and even weasels will burrow into the thatch, making their homes in its cosy warmth. You'll hear them scurrying around above you, little feet pattering and tiny jaws gnawing at the straw. It's a symphony of unwanted guests. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some regions, peasants would place dried herbs like tansy or wormwood in the thatch to deter pests, a kind of natural pest control that also gave the hut a very specific, earthy aroma. The most frustrating part of the thatched roof is its relationship with fire. You remember that little hearth you have in the centre of the hut? Well, the smoke rises and some of it seeps through the thatch, which is just dry straw. It's a terrifying thought. The very thing keeping you warm is a constant threat to your shelter. A stray spark, a piece of burning ash carried aloft by a gust of wind. It's a recipe for disaster. You've been told stories of whole villages burning down in the middle of the night, a fire jumping from one hut to the next in a matter of minutes. The constant fear of fire makes you extra careful with the hearth. You don't stack too many logs on at once. You keep a bucket of water or sand nearby. You never leave the fire unattended for long, not even for a minute. It's a low-grade fear that hums beneath the surface of your life, a dark little secret you share with every other peasant in the village. This fragile roof is a blessing and a curse. It gives you shelter, but it also forces you to live with a constant simmering dread. The straw also gets old, it rots, it gets infested, and it needs to be replaced. This isn't a quick job. It's an enormous undertaking that requires the help of your neighbours. Everyone pitches in, cutting fresh straw, tying it into bundles and hoisting it up onto the roof. It's a sight to behold, a whole community working together, a testament to the fact that survival is not a solitary affair. But it's also a reminder of your vulnerability. Your life depends on the goodwill of others, on their willingness to lend a hand when your roof finally gives out. The sound of the dripping water gets louder. You know what that means. You get up wincing as your tired muscles protest and grab a rough-spun bowl. You know exactly where the leak is. It's the spot right above the sleeping mat you share with your wife. It's a tiny pinprick of a leak, but it's enough. The water falls, a steady, rhythmic plink, plink, plink into the bowl. It's a small sound, but in the dark it feels like an alarm. It's a constant reminder that your shelter is imperfect, that no matter how hard you work, the elements will always find a way to test your resolve. You lie back down, your body protesting the movement. You know you should get up and try to patch it, but you're just so tired. It's a cold, miserable night, and the idea of going out into the dark, into the drizzle, to try and fix a roof that will just spring another leak tomorrow, it's too much. So you just lie there, listening to the drip, 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 and you try to find a sliver of comfort in the sound. At least the bowl is catching it. At least it's not falling directly on your face. It's a small victory, a small comfort in a world of constant hardship. And so you drift off, lulled to sleep by the rhythm of the rain, the rustling of mice in the walls, and the low comforting hum of the fire. The thatched roof is your blanket, a fragile shield against a hostile world. You just hope that tonight it holds. The drip, drip, drip from the thatched roof has stopped, replaced by a deep silence, the kind that only comes with a heavy frost. You're still half asleep, your body huddled against the cold and your cheek rests against the floor. It is not the soft, warm floor of a modern home. It is cold, hard, unforgiving. This is the truth of your existence. The ground beneath you is the very earth itself, packed down over years of use into a smooth, solid surface. This is your floor, and it is your constant reminder of how close you are to nature, how truly uninsulated you are from the world outside. This packed earth floor is a fascinating piece of peasant life. It's the most basic element of your home, requiring no special materials or skills to install. You just live on it, and over time, it becomes as hard as stone. It's also incredibly practical for a lot of reasons. For one, it's a great surface for sweeping. You take a crude broom made of dried twigs and push the day's debris, straw, bits of food, animal droppings, out the door with relative ease. It's a daily ritual of cleanliness, a small act of control over a messy world. But that's where the good points stop. The bad points, well, they are numerous. The floor is a permanent thermal sink. It absorbs the heat from the hearth and the heat from your body and disperses it into the cold ground beneath your hut. It's a constant, silent drain on your warmth. No matter how much you stoke the fire, no matter how many blankets you pile on, the cold will always rise up from the ground. You have learned to live with a perpetual chill in your feet and legs, a feeling that never quite goes away. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that people often used to sprinkle fresh herbs and flowers on the floor to make the hut smell better and to deter fleas. You might walk in and smell a faint aroma of mint or chamomile mixed with the overwhelming sense of smoke and animals. It's a small attempt to make a primitive space a little more pleasant, but it's a fleeting comfort, a temporary solution to a persistent problem. The floor is also a canvas for your life. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants would have covered the floor with rushes or straw to provide some insulation and comfort. You probably do, but you know that it's a messy business. The straw gets matted down, wet, and filled with all the detritus of daily life. You have to replace it often, which is a pain, but it's a necessary evil. It's a bit of a laugh, really. You spend your day on the hard earth outside, and you come in to rest on the hard earth inside, just with a little bit of dead grass on top. A mainstream historical fact is that the floors of these huts were often several feet lower than the ground outside. This simple design was not just about making the hut easier to build. It was also a way of trapping warmer, denser air inside and creating a slight barrier against the wind. It's a small, clever piece of folk engineering that shows the ingenuity of the people who built these homes. However, the ground itself presents its own challenges. You've gotten used to the unevenness of it, the small bumps and dips where the dirt didn't quite get packed down evenly. You know exactly where to put your feet in the dark to avoid stumbling. It's a kind of spatial awareness that is born out of necessity. You're so intimately connected to the ground that it is almost a part of you. You can feel the slight tremble of a passing cow, the vibrations of a cart on the road outside, and of course, there's the mud. In the winter, the floor can be an absolute mess. If you or an animal track in snow, or if there's a serious leak from the roof, the packed earth turns into a soupy, disgusting paste. You have to live with it, of course. You can't just throw down a new floor, you just have to wait for it to dry out, tracking mud everywhere and getting it all over your feet and clothes. It's a miserable experience, and it's a great little joke, a moment of dark humour that your floor is just as messy as the world outside. The mud floor is not just a surface, it's a part of the house's ecosystem. You share it with a number of unwanted guests. The mice and rats you hear in the walls will often scurry across the floor at night. Spiders and insects make their homes in the corners. It's a living, breathing thing, full of life, and not all of it is welcome. You've woken up more than once to find a spider crawling up your leg or a mouse trying to get into your food sack. But the floor is also a source of life. Remember when you had to bank the fire last night? You would have scooped up some of the dirt and ash from around the hearth to help insulate the coals. The very ground you walk on is a tool for your survival. It's where you set down your pots and pans, where you sit to eat your meagre meal, where you finally lie down to sleep. So you lie there now, your body chilled from the ground up, and you listen to the sounds of the hut. The low hum of the fire, the rustling of mice in the walls, the distant hoot of an owl, and the floor. It is silent, but it is a presence, a cold, unyielding reality that you can never escape. It is the very foundation of your existence, a constant reminder of how simple and hard life is. You turn over, trying to find a warmer spot, and you realise that every surface in this hut is either a tool for your survival or a source of hardship. The floor is both. You are fully awake now, the cold from the floor having done its work. You pull yourself into a sitting position, and as you do, a new reality asserts itself, one that is often forgotten in the grand story of medieval life. It's the smell. It's a presence in the hut, a living, breathing thing that has its own moods and textures. You've grown so used to it that you barely notice it anymore, but if a stranger were to walk in, their senses would be overwhelmed. The smell is not just one thing. It is a complex bouquet of 100 different aromas, each one a testament to the simple, hard life you lead. The most prominent scent, of course, is the smoke. It hangs in the air like a veil, thick and pungent. It has seeped into every surface of the hut, a permanent ghost of the hearth. Your clothes, your hair, even the food you eat. Everything carries the telltale aroma of wood smoke. It's a bitter, sharp smell, but it's also comforting in a way, a constant reminder of the warmth that keeps you alive. A mainstream historical fact is that the smoky atmosphere of these huts, while unpleasant, actually helped to preserve meat and other foodstuffs hung from the rafters, a sort of natural smoking process that extended their shelf life. But there are other scents too. There is the scent of damp earth, a rich, loamy smell that rises from the floor after a rain. It's the smell of the world outside, brought in on your boots and on the feet of your animals. It's a grounded, earthy scent, but it also carries with it the cold and the mud that you so desperately want to escape. Then there's the smell of the animals. You have a cow and a few chickens living in the hut with you, and they bring their own distinct aromas, the sweet grassy smell of their hay mixed with the sharp scent of their droppings. It's not a pleasant combination, but it's a familiar one. It's the smell of life, of survival, and you accept it without question. And then there's the scent of your own body. You don't bathe often. The water is freezing and there's no privacy to speak of. So you live with a thin layer of grime, sweat and dirt that accumulates over days, weeks, maybe even a month or two. The smell is, well, it's ripe. It's a musky, sour scent that is completely natural in this world. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that people often use strong-smelling herbs to mask the odours, not just for the smell itself, but because it was believed that foul odours could carry disease. So you might find yourself rubbing some crushed mint or sage on your hands or your clothes in a small, futile attempt to create a more pleasant atmosphere. The food you cook adds another layer to the olfactory soup. The smell of boiling vegetables, of a savoury stew of roots and whatever you've managed to catch. It's a delicious, comforting smell, a momentary respite from the cold and the grind of daily life. But it quickly fades, replaced by the ever-present trio of smoke, earth and animals. It's a constant cycle of new scents appearing and then being absorbed into the larger permanent whole. Historians still argue about the exact composition of these smells. Was it truly as overpowering as we imagine? Did peasants become completely desensitized to it? We have no way of truly knowing, but the evidence of their living conditions, the lack of ventilation, the cohabitation with animals, the limited access to hygiene, suggests that the sensory experience of a medieval hut was an intense one. It's a stark contrast to our modern world, where we use 1,000 different chemicals and products to sanitize and deodorize every surface. You don't have that luxury. Your hut smells like you, your family, your animals, and the very ground you stand on. It's the smell of life in its rawest form. You take a deep breath, and you realize that the smell is a kind of language. You can tell a lot about the day by the way the hut smells. If the fire is smouldering, the smoke is thick and heavy. If you've just cooked a meal, the air is full of a fleeting deliciousness. If a new animal has been brought in, there's a new note of, well, a new note. You've become an expert at reading these signs. It's a sixth sense, an extra layer of perception that helps you navigate your world. So you sit there, in the dim light of the smouldering fire, and you just smell. You smell the reality of your life. It's not clean, it's not fresh, but it is real. It is a testament to the struggle for survival, a constant reminder that you are a part of a much larger, messier world. You're not a visitor in this hut. You are a part of it. The smells are your story, a narrative of a life lived close to the earth, a story told in sense rather than words. You might find it a little funny, in a dark sort of way, that the one place you go for shelter is also a place that assaults your senses. It's just another little joke that the world plays on you. But you don't laugh, you just live with it. It's all you can do. You've sat up now, the cold and the smells a familiar assault on your senses. But now, you realise something else. It is still dark. You have no idea what time it is, or even if it's morning yet. The only light comes from the dying embers of the hearth, a weak flickering orange that casts more shadows than it illuminates. The world outside, the sun rising over the fields, is an abstract concept. This is the reality of your hut. It is a place of perpetual gloom, and you have learned to live in a world of semi-darkness. The lack of windows isn't just a design choice, it's a security and a structural necessity. A mainstream historical fact is that glass was an expensive luxury in the Middle Ages, far beyond the reach of a peasant family. Even if you could afford it, a large hole in the wall would compromise the structural integrity of your wattle and daub home and invite in the cold and the wind, so you have no windows. You might have a small opening, perhaps a slit in the wall just big enough to let a little light and a lot of cold air in, but it would be nothing more than a glorified peephole, and you'd probably stuff it with straw in the winter anyway. The result is a hut that is almost completely sealed off from the light of the outside world. You've learned to navigate this darkness with a kind of sixth sense. You know every lump and bump in the mud floor. You know where the cooking pot is, where the water bucket sits, where your tools are stored. You can find them with your eyes closed, guided by a muscle memory born of necessity. It's a bit of a joke, really. You know your home better in the dark than you do in the dim light of the day. This perpetual gloom has a profound effect on your life. Your internal clock is completely reset. You don't wake with the sun, you wake with the cold or with the needs of your animals. Your days are dictated not by the light, but by the sounds and the rhythms of your body. You rely on your other senses to make up for the lack of sight. You listen to the sounds of the village to know what time it is, the clanging of the smithy's hammer, the lowing of cattle being driven out to pasture. You can smell the change in the air, the coming of rain or the sharpening of the cold before it arrives. It's a different way of experiencing the world, a sensory experience that modern people have completely lost. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that this lack of light exposure also had an impact on the health of peasants, particularly their vitamin D production. Without direct sunlight, it was much harder for their bodies to produce this essential vitamin, which would have contributed to a range of health issues. So the darkness that kept you warm also, in a way, made you sick. It's a grim irony, a reminder that every choice has a consequence in this world. Historians still argue about the mental and psychological effects of living in such a consistently dark environment. Did it lead to a different kind of consciousness, a different way of dreaming? We can only speculate, but it's clear that your mind and body have adapted to this reality. You're not a creature of the sun. You're a creature of the hut, of the firelight and the shadows. This darkness is also your friend. It is a refuge, a place to hide from the prying eyes of the world. No one can see you in here. Your poverty, your sadness, your exhaustion, they're all swallowed up by the gloom. It's a private world, a small bubble of relative anonymity, in a world where everyone knows everything about everyone else. You can just be. You can sit and stare into the embers and think your own thoughts, safe from the gaze of your neighbours. This privacy, this small corner of yourself that the darkness provides, is a luxury that you cherish, but it's also a source of fear. The darkness is full of things that go bump in the night. The mice in the walls, the rats scurrying across the floor, the rustling of your animals, they're all just sounds, but in the dark they can be anything. Your imagination, freed from the constraints of sight, runs wild. You imagine wolves at the door, ghosts in the corners, monsters in the shadows. It's a low-grade, constant anxiety that hums just beneath the surface of your consciousness. You reach out your hand, feeling your way to the hearth, and you add a small piece of wood. The fire catches, and for a moment the gloom is pushed back, and you can see the faces of your sleeping family. The light is a relief, a momentary reprieve from the constant dark, but you know it won't last. The wood will burn down, and the hut will return to its natural state. You've accepted this. You've come to terms with the fact that your life will be spent mostly in the shadows, so you sit there, surrounded by the darkness, and you think. You think about the day to come. You think about the work you have to do. You think about the struggle that is your life, and you are grateful in a strange sort of way for the darkness. It is your shield, your comfort, and your torment. It is the very essence of your home. It's just a funny thing, isn't it? The one place you go to find comfort from the world is also a place that keeps you in a kind of perpetual night. The darkness is all-encompassing, but it isn't silent. You can hear the low, rhythmic breathing of your family all around you. Your body is still cold, but you're not alone in the dark. This is the truth of your existence. You sleep together, all of you, in one small single room. It's a reality that would seem strange and uncomfortable to modern sensibilities, but for a medieval peasant, it was a fundamental part of survival. This communal sleeping arrangement was not a choice born of affection, but of absolute necessity. It was a matter of life and death, and you have come to rely on it. You lie on a bed of straw laid directly on the packed earth floor. It's a rough, scratchy mattress that rustles and shifts with every movement. But you're not alone on it. You're pressed shoulder to shoulder with your wife, your children, and perhaps even an elderly parent. You're all a single huddle of humanity, a small living knot of warmth in the middle of a cold, dark room. The reason is simple, and it's a mainstream historical fact. Body heat. The human body is a furnace, and when you put a number of them together, they create a significant amount of warmth. This shared warmth is your greatest defense against the biting cold. You have a kind of hierarchy to this sleeping system. The children are often in the middle, cradled between the adults, their smaller bodies benefiting most from the shared heat. Your wife is on one side of you, her warmth a familiar comfort. Your son is on the other, his small hand occasionally reaching out to find yours in the dark. It's a physical, visceral connection, a constant reminder of the familial bonds that hold your world together. There's no privacy, of course, none whatsoever, but that's a concept that doesn't really exist in your life anyway. Privacy is a luxury for the wealthy and the solitary. For you, it's an alien idea. The lack of personal space has other consequences too. You know every sniffle, every cough, every snore of the people around you. You hear their dreams and their nightmares whispered in the dark. You're so close that you can feel the rhythmic beat of their hearts. It's a level of intimacy that would be suffocating in a modern context, but for you it's just life. You have no choice but to accept it. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some regions peasants would even sleep with a dog at the foot of their bed, not just for security but for the extra body heat it provided. The saying 3-dog night which refers to a night so cold you need to sleep with 3 dogs to stay warm, is a remnant of this practice. It's a testament to the lengths people would go to in order to survive the winter. Historians still argue about the social and psychological impact of this communal sleeping. Did it foster a stronger sense of community and family? Or did it lead to constant friction and resentment? We can never know for sure, but you know that it's a constant negotiation. You learn to sleep lightly, to be aware of the movements of the people around you, to give them space when they need it, to take it back when you need it. It's a silent, constant dance that you all perform in the dark. The communal sleeping also serves another less obvious purpose: security. There is strength in numbers. A lone peasant in a field is a target. A family huddled together in a hut is a small, formidable unit. You know that if a wolf were to come to the door, or if a thief were to try and break in, you would all wake up at once. You would all be there to defend your home and your family. The lack of privacy is a trade-off for a greater sense of safety. You're never truly alone, and in a world full of dangers, that is a comfort. But let's not romanticize it too much. It's not always pleasant. You wake up hot and sweaty in the middle of the night, your body pressed against another. You have to endure the snoring, the restless tossing and turning, the inevitable need to get up to relieve yourself in the middle of the night, which means crawling over everyone else in the dark. It's a constant source of little inconveniences, and a little light-hearted joke is that the person on the outside of the huddle always ends up with the cold side of the blanket. It's the price you pay for being the one who has to get up and tend the fire. You feel your daughter's small foot press against your back, and you can feel the warmth radiating from her body. It's a good warmth, a life-giving warmth. It's the warmth of survival. You might not have much, but you have this. You have your family. You're a single, breathing organism in the dark, and your strength is in your unity. You're a bundle of humanity, a small beacon of life in the midst of a cold and unforgiving world. And you know, as you drift back to sleep, that this is the one thing that will get you through the long, dark nights of winter. This shared body heat is the true heart of your home, and it's a power that no fire, no matter how strong, can ever truly replicate. It is the very essence of survival. You're still lying in the dark, the warmth of your family, a precious, tangible thing. But there is another source of heat, a low, constant hum of life that comes from the other side of the hut. It is the rhythmic breathing of your livestock. You're not alone in your home. The chickens are roosting in a corner, a low, contented clucking occasionally breaking the silence. And then there is the cow. She's lying down, her great bulk a silent, immobile mass in the darkness. You live with your animals. It's not a choice you made out of sentimentality. It's a cold, hard, and utterly practical reality. A mainstream historical fact is that in medieval Europe, particularly in the poorer rural areas, cohabitation with livestock was a common and essential practice. It served a dual purpose: security and warmth. The hut itself was a simple structure, and bringing your most valuable assets, your animals, inside was the best way to protect them from wolves, thieves, or the bitter cold. An animal is much easier to replace than a human life, but it is still a significant investment, and losing a cow to a wolf would be a disaster for your family. By bringing them inside, you keep them safe, but the real reason is warmth. A cow is a large animal, a living furnace. She generates a significant amount of body heat. That heat rises slowly but surely, filling the small space of your hut with a palpable warmth that you would otherwise lack. You can feel it now, a subtle shift in the air that comes from her side of the hut. It's a low, earthy warmth that mixes with the smoke from the hearth and the scent of your family. It is a fundamental part of the hut's climate control system. This is a crucial piece of the puzzle of how you survive the winter. You're not just a family of humans, you're a small herd, and your survival is intertwined. The animals are not just heat sources, of course. They're also your source of sustenance. The chickens provide eggs, the cow provides milk, and the pigs provide meat. Though the pigs might not be brought inside as they are a bit messier. They are your wealth. The thought of losing them is more terrifying than the thought of being hungry for a day or two. You've learned to live with their presence, with their smells and their noises, the lowing of the cow, the soft clucking of the chickens. These are the sounds of your survival. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that some historians believe this close proximity to animals also had a surprising health benefit. By living with animals, peasants were exposed to a wider range of microbes and bacteria, which may have helped to build stronger immune systems against certain diseases. It's a grim thought, but in a world with no medicine, every little bit of natural resistance helps. Living with the animals was a kind of primitive immunization program. Historians still argue about the emotional bond between peasants and their livestock. Were the animals just tools, a means to an end, or was there a genuine connection, a sense of shared purpose and shared struggle? We can never know for sure, but you know that you have a respect for these creatures. They are your partners in survival. You feed them, you care for them, and in return they give you warmth, food, and security. This cohabitation is not without its challenges, of course. There's the mess. The animals are not house-trained, and you have to deal with their droppings on the dirt floor. It's a daily chore, a constant reminder of the lack of sanitation. It's a little dark humour moment that your animals are both your heat source and a major source of the smells you have to live with. It's a trade-off you make without a second thought, because the cold is a far more immediate threat than a little bit of mud and dung. And then there's the noise. The animals are not silent at night. The cow might shift and low in her sleep. The chickens might rustle in their sleep. It's not a quiet house. You have to learn to sleep through it, to accept it as a normal part of your life. It's a symphony of life, a constant low-level thrum that tells you everything is okay. You can hear the cow chewing now, a soft rhythmic munch. Munch, munch that is a soothing sound. It's a sound of contentment, of life. You feel a wave of gratitude for this great, silent beast that shares your home and keeps you from freezing. She's a part of your family just as your children and your wife are. You're a small, self-contained ecosystem, a little world of humans and animals, all huddled together against the cold. As you drift back to sleep, you're surrounded by the smells of smoke and earth, the sounds of your family and your animals, and the gentle, life-giving warmth that comes from their bodies. You're not alone. You're not just a person. You're a part of a larger, living whole. The animals are not a problem. They are a solution. They are the reason you are warm, the reason you are safe, and the reason you will wake up tomorrow to face another day. The chill that now permeates the hut is a constant reminder of what is to come. It's a low-grade anxiety that has been building for weeks. The days are getting shorter, the sun is a pale, indifferent orb in the sky, and you know deep in your bones that winter is on its way. This isn't just a season change, it's an existential threat. And so, the rhythm of your life has changed. You're no longer just working to survive the day, you're working to survive the winter. The entire village is a hive of activity, a desperate rush to hoard resources and secure your homes before the first killing frost. The first and most vital task is gathering firewood. This isn't a casual stroll in the woods, this is a monumental effort. You and your family spend every waking hour that you can spare in the forest, cutting down dead trees, dragging fallen logs back to the village, and splitting them with crude axes. The sound of chopping wood is a constant rhythmic beat that echoes across the fields. Every piece of wood is a little bit of warmth, a little bit of life, and you know that your survival depends on how big your pile is. A mainstream historical fact is that in many manorial systems, peasants were granted specific rights to collect wood from the Lord's forest, a crucial provision that recognised the essential need for fuel. But even with that right, it was still a back-breaking task, and the fear of not having enough wood was a constant companion. Then there is the food. You've spent all summer and fall tending your crops, but now it's time to bring in the harvest. You've gathered the grains, dug up the root vegetables, and collected whatever wild edibles you could find. Now you have to store it all. You'll build a small separate lean-to or bury a cache in the ground, a little hidey hole for your food. You have to protect it not just from the cold, but from vermin and from thieves. Your harvest is a matter of life and death, and you guard it with a kind of fierce intensity. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that some peasants would pit their root vegetables. This involved digging a trench, lining it with straw, and burying the vegetables under a mound of earth. This simple act of folk engineering created a kind of natural refrigerator that kept the vegetables from freezing solid and rotting. A small but ingenious solution to a major problem. It's a testament to the fact that people were constantly innovating, constantly finding new ways to survive with what they had. Historians still argue about the exact timing and rituals of this harvest. Was it a community-wide event, or did each family work alone? We can imagine it was a bit of both. a great shared effort punctuated by moments of individual fear and determination. The atmosphere in the village is a mix of exhaustion and urgency. There's no time for rest. There's no time for leisure. Every moment is a gift, and it must be spent wisely. You also have to secure your hut. Remember your walls of wattle and daub? Now is the time to check them for cracks and holes. You'll mix more mud and straw and go around the outside of your home, patching every little gap you can find. You'll make sure the door is tight, maybe even stuff a few old rags around the edges to try and stop the drafts. You'll get on the roof, checking for loose bundles of straw, tying them down, and making sure that your shield against the rain is as strong as it can be. It's a race against the clock, a desperate last-ditch effort to make your home a little more resilient. Your animals are also a part of this preparation. You will have to make a decision about which ones to keep and which ones to slaughter. It's a grim, brutal task, but a necessary one. You can't feed a whole herd of animals through the winter. The meat from the slaughtered animals is salted and smoked and stored away, a precious source of protein that will get you through the leanest months. You feel a pang of sadness as you watch your children say goodbye to an animal they've known for a while, but you know that this is the price of survival. It's a pragmatic, cold calculation, and you can't afford to be sentimental. You've also prepared your sleeping quarters. You've gathered fresh straw and laid it out, a nice thick layer that will provide a little bit of insulation from the cold, hard floor. You've washed and mended your rough woolen blankets. You've prepared the hearth, cleaning out the old ash and making sure that the stones are in place. You are nesting in the most literal sense of the word. You are building a home, a shelter, a safe place for your family to huddle against the coming storm. The first snow is a shock. It falls silently, a gentle dusting of white that covers the ground and the roofs of the huts. It is beautiful in a way, but you don't have time to appreciate it. You know that it's not just beautiful, it's deadly. It's the beginning of the long, dark, cold season that will test you in every way possible. You look at your woodpile and you look at your food stores and you pray. You pray that it will be enough. You pray that your home will hold, and you pray that you will all make it to spring. It's a moment of solemn contemplation, a realization that your life is now in the hands of the elements. It's a little dark joke that the beautiful white stuff is a silent killer, a polite little invitation to an uncomfortable few months. But you don't have time to dwell on it. You have to get inside. The work is done. The waiting begins. You've made it inside, the first cold shock of the snow a distant memory. The hut, though still cold, feels like a sanctuary. But your protection against the elements doesn't end with the walls and the roof. It begins with what you wear and what you sleep on. These aren't just clothes and bedding. They are your second layer of defence, your personal portable insulation. And like everything else in your life, they are rough, simple and utterly essential. Let's start with your clothing. You're wearing a tunic made of rough wool. This isn't the soft merino wool you might be familiar with. This is coarse, scratchy stuff woven from the fleece of the local sheep. It's itchy and a little bit uncomfortable, but it is also an incredible insulator. The wool fibres trap tiny pockets of air, creating a thermal barrier that keeps your body heat in and the cold air out. You might have several layers of these tunics, one on top of the other, to provide extra warmth. A mainstream historical fact is that wool was the most common textile in medieval Europe for all classes, from peasant to king, because of its abundance, durability and excellent insulating properties. Your legs are covered by hose or leggings, also made of wool. They are just tubes of cloth, tied at the waist with a cord. They offer little protection on their own, but they are a vital part of your layering system. On your feet, you have simple leather shoes, or perhaps just crude wraps of cloth. The cold from the mud floor is a constant threat, and your feet are the first to feel its icy grip. You often wear layers of cloth to pad your feet, hoping that the extra bulk will keep the cold at bay. Your clothes are a constant work in progress. They are mended, patched and reused, until they are nothing more than a collection of worn-out rags. You've become an expert at mending, at weaving new thread into old cloth, at making do with what little you have. It's a point of pride, in a way, that you can make your clothes last for years. A little light joke is that you can tell a person's entire life story by the patches on their clothes. Now, onto your bedding. Your bed is a simple straw sack, a large bag filled with dried straw. It's not soft, and it rustles with every movement you make, but it gets the job done. The straw provides a layer of insulation, a barrier between your body and the cold, hard ground. But the real magic of your bedding is the blankets. These are not soft, fluffy duvets. They are rough, heavy blankets made of coarse wool or linen. You have a few of them, and you pile them on top of you and your family, a great heavy mound of cloth that traps your body heat. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that people would often pre-warm their beds by placing hot stones wrapped in cloth, or even a warm brick from the hearth at the foot of their straw sacks. It was a simple, ingenious way to create a small pocket of warmth that could last for a few hours. It was a small luxury, a small moment of comfort in a world of discomfort. Historians still argue whether a typical peasant family had enough blankets to be truly comfortable in the winter. We can imagine that they would have hoarded whatever they had, and that the quality and quantity of their bedding would have been a constant source of worry. The bedding is just as important as the walls of your hut. It's a vital part of your personal nightly battle against the cold. The linen is a more delicate material, spun from the flax plant. It is smoother and more comfortable against the skin, and it would have been a prized possession. You might have a single sheet of linen and you treat it with great care. A mainstream historical fact is that linen was a more expensive textile than wool, so its use would have been a sign of a slightly higher status even among peasants. You lie in your bed, a human burrito wrapped in layers of rough cloth, and you feel the weight of the blankets on your body. It is a heavy, comforting weight, a tangible sign that you are protected. You can feel the warmth building slowly but surely, a small, precious pocket of heat that will sustain you through the night. The sounds of the mice in the walls, the lowing of the cow, the rustling of the straw, they all fade into the background. Your world is now just the warmth of your blankets and the rhythmic breathing of your family. You know that your clothes and your bedding are not just functional objects. They are a part of your story. They tell a tale of poverty, of resilience, of a constant struggle for survival. They're a testament to the fact that you can make do with so little, and that you can find comfort even in the most difficult of circumstances. So you lie there, under your heavy, rough blankets, and you are grateful. You're grateful for the sheep that gave you the wool, for the plant that gave you the linen, and for the work of your hands that turned them into a shield against the cold. It's a little dark joke that your most valuable possessions are things that most people would throw away, but for you, they are everything. The warmth that your blankets provide is a temporary comfort. It's the hearth that is the true master of your home, and its rituals dictate the rhythm of your day and night. You have become a servant to the fire, a constant caretaker, and its needs are your needs. It is more than just a heat source. It is a sacred space, a living thing that must be tended with care and respect. Your day begins and ends with the hearth. The first thing you do in the morning, even before the sun has risen, is check the fire. You reach out your hand, feeling the warmth from the banked coals, and you breathe a sigh of relief. The embers are still glowing. You carefully push away the ash with a stick, revealing the red heart of the fire, and you gently blow on it. A small puff of smoke rises, and then a tiny flame. You feed it a few small twigs, and then a few larger pieces of wood. The fire catches, and the hut is filled with a new light, a new warmth. This is the moment when the day truly begins. The hearth is your kitchen. You have a simple iron pot suspended over the fire on a tripod, or hung from a chain. This is where you cook everything. Your breakfast, a simple porridge of oats or barley. Your dinner, a savoury stew of root vegetables and whatever meat or fish you've managed to get. The pot is a constant presence, a silent, simmering witness to your life. The smell of the food is a fleeting, delicious thing that cuts through the ever-present aroma of smoke and earth. A mainstream historical fact is that this one-pot cooking method was incredibly common and efficient, as it allowed families to use a wide variety of ingredients and stretch a small amount of meat to feed many people. The hearth is also your social hub. This is where you sit with your family after a long day in the fields. It's where stories are told, where plans are made, where you just sit in silence, staring into the mesmerizing dance of the flames. The flickering light casts long, dancing shadows on the walls, and the crackle of the fire is the soundtrack to your life. It's a moment of peace, a brief respite from the constant struggle. But the hearth is a demanding master. It requires constant attention. You can't just throw a big log on it and walk away. You have to monitor it. Too much wood and the fire will roar, sending sparks up to the thatched roof, a constant source of fear. Too little, and it will smoulder and die, and you'll have to start all over again. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some villages, a person would be designated to keep a fire burning all night, and if your fire went out, You could go to their hut and get an ember to start your own. It was a kind of communal life insurance, a small but vital piece of social infrastructure. Historians still argue about the exact methods of banking the fire. Was it just a simple covering of ash, or were there more complex techniques involving special types of wood or dung to ensure a longer, slower burn? We can never know for sure, but you know your own method, and you guard it jealously. It's a skill that has been passed down from generation to generation, and it's one of the most important things you know. The fire is not just a tool, it's a part of your family. It's a living, breathing thing that you have to care for. You can talk to it, in a way. You can feed it. You can tend to its needs, and it will respond by giving you warmth and light. It's a constant, silent conversation, a negotiation between you and the elements. A little dark humour moment is that you feel more comfortable talking to your fire than you do to your lord. As the day comes to a close, the final ritual begins. Banking the fire. You gather the glowing coals together and you carefully cover them with a thick layer of ash. You're tucking the fire in for the night, ensuring that its life will continue, a low, pulsing beat that will sustain you through the darkness. It's a moment of deep satisfaction, a sign that you have done your job, that you have done everything you can to ensure your family's survival for one more night. You lie down in your straw sack, the warmth of the fire slowly fading but the memory of its light still dancing behind your eyes. The hut is getting cold again, but you're not afraid. You know the fire is still there, a silent, smouldering promise of a new day. You have done your duty, and now you can rest. The hearth is not just a part of your home, it is the centre of your universe, a constant glowing reminder that life, no matter how hard, is a beautiful and resilient thing. The banked fire is a promise, a low, smouldering pulse of warmth that will get you through the night, but it's not enough. The cold is a living, breathing thing, and it has found its way inside. It's not a sudden, shocking blast of icy air, but a silent, insidious creep. It's the drafts. They are everywhere, little currents of cold air that slip through the cracks in your walls and floor, a constant, low-grade assault on your warmth. You have tried to stop them, of course. You've stuffed straw into the biggest holes, you've piled mud against the door, but it's a losing game. The wind is a patient and persistent enemy. The drafts are a constant reality of your life. You can feel them now, a cold sensation on the back of your neck. It's the air from outside, a messenger of the frost, a reminder that your home is a permeable membrane, not a solid shield. The wattle and daub walls, for all their strength, are not airtight. The woven branches and the dried mud are full of tiny fissures and gaps, little highways for the cold to travel. And the thatched roof, for all its bulk, is also a source of drafts. The wind can slip through the bundles of straw, a ghostly current of air that carries the chill of the night. A mainstream historical fact is that in many parts of the world, early homes were built into the ground, a technique known as pit dwelling. This was a deliberate choice to use the Earth's natural insulation and to create a more sheltered space that would be less susceptible to wind and drafts. Your hut, while not a true pit dwelling, uses a similar principle by having a floor that is several feet below the ground. It's a small, clever piece of engineering that shows that even in the most basic homes, people were thinking about how to combat the cold. But it's not enough. The cold finds a way. It's a little dark humour moment that your home is a bit like a sieve. It holds the big things in, like you and your family and your cow, but it lets all the little, important things out, like your warmth. You can feel it now, a cold little current that moves across the floor, a ghost of the wind outside. It's a reminder that no matter how hard you work, you will never be truly warm. The drafts are also a source of noise. You can hear them now, a low, mournful whistle as the wind finds its way through a crack in the wall. It's a sad, lonely sound that seems to echo the emptiness of the world outside. Sometimes the wind will get a little stronger, and you'll hear a sudden gust, a powerful blast of cold air that rushes through the hut, making the flames in the hearth dance and flicker. It's a little bit of a shock, a sudden reminder of the power of nature. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some parts of medieval Scandinavia, homes were built with a central post that had a hole in the roof above it. This hole, called a louver, was not just for smoke. It was also a way to create a controlled draft that would draw the smoke up and out of the hut. It was a kind of primitive chimney, a way of managing the airflow and making the hut a little more comfortable. Historians still argue about the effectiveness of these simple design features. Did they truly make a significant difference in the comfort of the people who lived in them? We can never know for sure, but we can imagine that any small improvement would have been a great blessing. Every little bit of warmth, every little bit of insulation was a victory against the cold. You feel a cold little draft on your face now, and you shift, trying to find a warmer spot. You pull the blankets tighter, you press yourself closer to your wife, but the cold is persistent. It finds the gaps in your blankets, the little spaces between you and your family. It is a constant nagging discomfort that you have learned to live with. It's just another part of the background noise of your life. The drafts are a testament to the fact that you are living in a world that is not designed for comfort. It is a world of hard edges and constant struggle. Your home is not a place of refuge from the elements. It is a place where you negotiate with them. You give a little, and they take a little. You build a wall, and they find a way through it. It's a constant silent battle, and you know, deep in your bones, that you will never win. But you can endure. You can huddle with your family, you can stoke the fire, and you can pile on your blankets. You can do everything you can to create a small, warm bubble of life in the middle of a cold, indifferent world. The drafts are just a reminder of the fragility of that bubble and the constant work it takes to maintain it. So you lie there and you listen to the wind, a long, sad whisper that tells you that you are a part of a much larger, colder world. And you are not afraid, you're just a little bit more tired. The cold drafts are a constant reminder of the outside world, but there's another, more internal enemy that you battle every waking hour. You've noticed it since you first stepped into the hut, a thick grey veil that hangs in the air and stings your eyes. This is the smoke. With no chimney, no proper vent, the smoke from your hearth rises, swirls lazily, and eventually, reluctantly, finds its way out through the small holes in the thatched roof. But most of it doesn't. Most of it just stays, a permanent resident in your home and a constant assault on your lungs. You're breathing this in from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep. It's a bitter, acrid scent, and it leaves a residue on everything. Your clothes, your skin, your food, everything has a faint smoky aroma. But the real toll is on your body. You cough now, a deep, raspy cough that seems to come from the very depths of your lungs. Your eyes water constantly and your throat feels raw. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a genuine health hazard. A slow poison that you willingly consume every day because the alternative, freezing to death, is so much worse. A mainstream historical fact is that this constant exposure to smoke led to a number of chronic respiratory illnesses in the Middle Ages. Historians have found evidence of lung disease and other respiratory ailments in skeletal remains from the period, a grim testament to the physical toll of living in these smoky huts. It's a stark contrast to our modern world, where we have 100 different ways to filter our air and keep it clean. You don't have that luxury. Your air is just as dirty as the mud on your floor. The smoke also creates a kind of permanent gloom. It thickens the air, making it hazy and difficult to see through. The flickering light from the hearth is diffused, turned into a soft, hazy glow that makes the hut feel smaller and more enclosed. It's an atmosphere that is both comforting and suffocating. It's comforting because it's a sign that the fire is burning, that you have warmth. But it's suffocating because it's hard to breathe. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some northern regions, where the winters were long and the homes had to be sealed tight against the cold, a practice known as smoke bathing would sometimes occur. The family would intentionally let the smoke build up, believing that the smoke would cleanse the air of bad spirits and even help to get rid of lice and fleas. It's a fascinating example of how a dangerous necessity was reframed as a beneficial ritual, a kind of psychological trick to make a grim reality a little more bearable. Historians still argue whether the long-term effects of this smoke inhalation were truly understood by the people who lived through it. Did they know that it was slowly killing them? We can only speculate, but we can imagine that they would have accepted it as a part of life, just as they accepted the cold, the hunger, and the hard labour. Life was short and hard, and you didn't have the luxury of worrying about what might happen to you years down the road. You were too busy trying to survive the day. The smoke is also a kind of clock. It tells you what's happening in the hut without you even having to look. A thin wisp of smoke tells you the fire is smouldering. A thick, acrid cloud tells you that someone has put on some fresh, damp wood. You've become an expert at reading these signs. It's a language. a silent, smoky conversation that you have with your home. You cough again, a deep rattling sound that seems to echo in the small space. Your wife stirs and she looks at you with a tired, knowing expression. She understands. She's going through the same thing. You're all in this together, a small, suffering family of humans and animals, all breathing the same thick, unhealthy air. It's a part of the shared experience, a grim reality that you can't escape. But there is a strange comfort in it too. The smoke is a part of the hut, a part of its very being. It is the smell of your home, the taste of your air. It is the price of warmth, and you're willing to pay it. It's a little dark joke that the thing that keeps you from freezing is also slowly suffocating you. It's the kind of cruel irony that is a constant part of your life, but you don't laugh, you just endure. You close your eyes and you try to breathe shallowly, to take in as little of the smoke as possible, but you know it's a futile effort. It is everywhere, and it is not going anywhere. So you lie there, in the dim, smoky light of the hut, and you listen to the sounds of the night. The rustling of the mice, the lowing of the cow, the soft breathing of your family. And you are surrounded by the smoke, a silent, invisible killer that is also a constant companion. It is the air you breathe, the life you live. And you are, in a strange sort of way, grateful for it. Because without it, you would have nothing. The darkness and the cold are a constant, unchanging reality. The smoke and the drafts are a part of your daily grind. But there are moments, rare and precious, that break the monotony of the struggle. These are the midwinter feasts, the brief respites that punctuate the long, bleak season. It's a moment of light and warmth in the darkest time of the year, a chance to gather with your community and remember what it means to be alive. The feasting begins with a celebration, often around the time of the winter solstice. It's a time when the entire village, or at least your small community, comes together. You might not have much, but on this day, you share what you have. The lord of the manor might contribute a hog, or a large sack of grain, or a cask of ale, a kind of benevolent gesture that is both a symbol of his power and a way to keep his peasants from starving. This is a mainstream historical fact. These manorial feasts were a common practice, a part of the social contract between lord and peasant. It was a way of reinforcing the social hierarchy, while also providing a vital source of food and comfort. The food is the star of the show. You've been living on a diet of stale bread, watery porridge, and stored root vegetables for weeks now. But for this one day there is an abundance of food. There is meat, perhaps the roasted hog that the Lord provided, or a fish that was caught in the last days before the lakes froze over. The smell of the roasting meat is an intoxicating thing, a powerful aroma that cuts through the ever-present sense of smoke and earth. It is a promise of a temporary return to a world of plenty. The feast is held not in your small, smoky hut, but in the communal hall, or perhaps in the Lord's great hall if you are lucky. The fire in the great hearth is roaring, a magnificent blaze that sends waves of heat across the room. The space is filled with light, with warmth, with the sound of people talking and laughing. It's a shocking contrast to the gloom and silence of your own home. For a few hours you're not just a peasant, you're a member of a community, a part of a larger whole. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some regions a special drink called wassail would be brewed for the occasion. It was a kind of spiced ale, warmed over the fire and served in a large communal bowl. The word wassail comes from the Old English for be in good health, and the ritual of toasting and sharing the drink was a way of wishing good fortune to your neighbours. It was a small act of solidarity, a way of reminding each other that you were all in this together. Historians still argue about the true nature of these feasts. Were they genuine celebrations of community and hope, or were they just a grim necessity, a way for the Lord to keep his labourers alive, and a way for the peasants to endure another few months of hardship? The answer is likely a bit of both. You know that the feast is temporary. You know that as soon as it's over, you'll be back in your cold, dark hut, living on your meagre rations. But for a few hours, you don't think about that. You just eat, you drink, and you enjoy the company of your friends and neighbours. The atmosphere is one of pure, unadulterated joy. There are songs and stories. There is dancing, a rare and precious thing in a world where every motion is a part of a chore. Children run around, their faces lit up by the firelight, their laughter a sound that you haven't heard in months. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated release. You can forget for a little while about the cold, the hunger, the constant struggle. But the feast also has a deeper meaning. It is a symbol of hope. It is a reminder that the winter will not last forever, that spring will eventually return, and that the world will be green again. The feast is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a sign that even in the darkest of times, you can find a reason to celebrate. It's a little light joke that the best parts of your life are also the shortest, but you don't mind. You savour every moment. The feast eventually comes to an end. The fire in the great hall dies down. The songs fade away. You walk back to your hut, the cold air a shock after the warmth of the hall. The world is dark and silent again, but you are not the same person who left your hut earlier. You're full of food and your spirit is full of hope. The memory of the feast is a warm little ember that you can carry with you, a light in the perpetual gloom of the winter months. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times there is always a reason to be grateful. So you lie down in your straw sack, and you are not just a cold, tired body. You are a person who has feasted. You are a part of a community. You are a human being who has found a moment of joy in a world of hardship. The feast is over, but its warmth remains. And you know, as you drift off to sleep, that you will make it through the winter. You will make it. You wake with a start, the memory of the feast a distant, beautiful dream. The reality of your bed asserts itself. It's not a soft, comfortable mattress with a frame and springs. Oh, no. It's the simple, honest, and utterly unyielding reality of your world. Your bed is a straw sack, a large rectangular bag made of rough cloth and filled with dried straw. It's a thing that is both a blessing and a curse. The straw sack is your shield against the cold, hard reality of the mud floor. It provides a crucial layer of insulation, a barrier between your body and the thermal sink of the earth. The dried straw is full of air, and those small pockets of air are what keep you from freezing from the ground up. It's a simple, ingenious solution, a testament to the fact that you can make do with so little. A mainstream historical fact is that straw was the most common form of bedding for the vast majority of the population in medieval Europe, for the simple reason that it was abundant and free. But the straw sack is not without its problems. For one, it's noisy. Every time you move, it rustles and crinkles, a soft, dry sound that can be surprisingly loud in the quiet of the night. It's a constant, low-grade distraction, a reminder that your bed is not just a place to rest, but a living, breathing thing. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that sometimes peasants would add aromatic herbs to their straw sacks, like lavender or thyme, to help with the smell and to repel fleas and other pests. It was a small attempt to make a grim reality a little more pleasant. The straw also gets old, it gets compressed, it gets damp, and it gets filled with a whole ecosystem of creatures. The mice you hear in the walls love to burrow into the straw. The fleas and bedbugs find it a perfect home. You've become an expert at listening for the telltale sounds of these unwanted guests, and you've learned to deal with the constant itch and discomfort that comes with sharing your bed with the local wildlife. It's a grim little joke that your bed is also a home for the very things you're trying to keep out. Historians still argue whether the straw was replaced regularly, or if it was only changed once a year, or even less frequently. The truth is likely dependent on the family, the harvest, and the weather. We can imagine that changing the straw was a major chore, a time-consuming and messy process that would have been put off for as long as possible. The smell of old, rotting straw, of dampness and mildew, would have been a constant part of your life. The straw sack is also not very comfortable. The straw is lumpy and uneven. You wake up with stiff muscles and sore joints, and you have to spend a few minutes in the morning trying to work out the kinks. But you don't complain. You're grateful for the straw sack. It is a place of rest. It is a place of refuge. It is a place where you can finally, after a long day of hard labour, lie down and close your eyes. You lie there now, listening to the rustling of the straw and the soft breathing of your family, and you feel the warmth that you all generate together. The straw sack is a part of that warmth. It is a part of that communal sleeping arrangement, a part of the greater whole that is your family's survival. It's a reminder that in this world, comfort is not a given. It is a thing that you have to create with your own hands, with whatever you can find. The bed is also a symbol of your social standing. You know that the lord of the manor sleeps on a soft mattress filled with feathers, on a bed frame that is raised off the cold floor. He has fine linen sheets and thick woolen blankets. His bed is a symbol of his wealth and his power. Your bed is a symbol of your poverty and your struggle. But you don't resent it. You have what you need, and you are grateful for it. So you lie there, in the dim light of the hut, and you are a person who is resting. You are a person who has a bed. It might not be a comfortable bed. It might be full of straw and mice and fleas, but it is your bed. It is your sanctuary. And you know, as you drift back to sleep, that you will be able to face another day, all because you had a place to lay your head. It's a little dark joke that the most luxurious thing you have is a sack of dead grass, but you wouldn't trade it for anything. You've settled into your straw sack, the warmth from your body, and your family slowly building under the heavy blankets. The hut is a world of shadows and dim light, but it is not silent. It is a symphony of sound, a constant low-level thrum that you have come to accept as the soundtrack to your life. The sounds of sleep in your hut are a mix of human and animal, a constant reminder that you are a part of a larger living ecosystem. The most prominent sound, of course, is the rustling of the straw. Every time you or a member of your family shifts, the straw crinkles and whispers, a dry, papery sound that can be surprisingly loud in the quiet of the night. It's a sound that is both comforting and annoying. It's comforting because it's a sign that you are moving, that you are alive. But it's annoying because it can be hard to find a quiet moment of rest. You've become an expert at moving slowly and deliberately, trying to minimize the noise, but it's a futile effort. The straw has a mind of its own. Then there are the sounds of your family. You can hear the low, rhythmic breathing of your wife, a soft, reassuring sound that tells you she is safe and sound. You can hear the light, shallow breathing of your children, a fragile little sound that makes your heart ache with love and worry. And of course, there's the snoring. It's a natural human sound, but in the small enclosed space of your hut, it can be a little overwhelming. A little light-hearted joke is that you can tell who is most tired by the volume of their snore. But the sounds of sleep are not just human, they're also animal. You can hear the soft, contented clucking of the chickens from their roost in the corner. You can hear the low, rhythmic breathing of your cow, a great, slow-moving tide of sound that fills the hut. And then there are the less welcome sounds. The squeaks of the mice in the walls, a high-pitched, frantic little sound that tells you they are building their nests and looking for food. You can hear them skittering across the floor, their tiny feet a soft, rustling sound that can be surprisingly loud in the dark. It's a constant low-grade annoyance, a reminder that you're not the only one who lives in this hut. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that people would sometimes keep a cat in the hut, not as a pet, but as a kind of organic pest control. The cat would hunt the mice and rats, and its presence would be a silent, powerful deterrent. It's a good example of how every living thing in your world has a purpose, a role to play in the struggle for survival. Historians still argue about the true nature of these sounds. Were they comforting, a sign of life and security? Or were they a constant source of stress and anxiety, a reminder of the lack of privacy and the constant threat of vermin? The truth is likely a mix of both. You have come to accept these sounds as a part of your life. They are a constant low-level presence that you no longer even notice. The sounds of sleep are also a kind of communication. You can tell a lot about the state of your family by the sounds they make. A sudden shift in your wife's breathing tells you she's having a bad dream. A sudden, sharp noise from the cow tells you she's restless or uncomfortable. You're constantly listening, constantly aware of the world around you. This is a survival skill, a way of staying safe in a world where danger can be just a footstep away. The sounds are also a kind of lullaby. You're lulled to sleep by the rustling of the straw, the breathing of your family, the soft sounds of your animals. It's a natural organic soundscape, a world of whispers and murmurs that is far more beautiful than any song. It is the sound of life, of survival, of a small self-contained world that is protected from the cold and the darkness outside. You lie there now, and you just listen. You listen to the sounds of the hut, a symphony of life and struggle. You're not alone. You're a part of a small, breathing community, and your survival is intertwined with every other living thing in the room. The sounds of sleep are a reminder of that. They are a sign that you are safe, that you are warm, that you are not alone in the dark. A mainstream historical fact is that this communal sleeping and the sounds that went with it were a fundamental part of the peasant experience. It was a life without true silence, without true privacy, but it was also a life filled with a sense of connection and community. You were never truly alone. and in a world where loneliness could be a kind of slow death, that was a precious gift. So you lie there, and you listen to the sounds of your world, a world of straw and mud and animals and humans, and you are grateful for every single one of them. They are a testament to the fact that you are alive, that you are warm, that you are not a part of the cold, dead world outside. They are the sounds of your home, and they are the sounds of your survival. The symphony of sleep has come to an end. You wake up with a start, not from a sound, but from a sensation. It's the cold. It's a deep, biting chill that has seeped into the hut and settled in your bones. The banked fire is just a low orange eye now, a dim memory of the warmth that once was. You feel the cold on your face, a stark contrast to the warmth of the blankets, and you know, without a doubt, that morning has arrived. The act of waking up in a medieval hut is not a gentle one. It's a sudden, shocking embrace of the cold. The air that you inhale is icy, a painful jolt to your lungs. Your body, which has been warmed by the shared body heat of your family, is now surrounded by a cold, hostile air. It's a brutal way to start the day, a constant physical reminder of the world you live in. The first thing you have to do is get out of your warm cocoon. It's a difficult choice, a battle between the desire to stay warm and the need to get up and face the day. You take a deep breath and you push the blankets aside, the cold air a shock to your skin. You can see your breath in the dim light of the hut, a small white cloud that hangs in the air and then disappears. It's a visible sign of the cold, a constant reminder of the physical reality of your life. A mainstream historical fact is that the cold was a major factor in the lives of medieval peasants, not just in the winter, but year-round. The huts were not well insulated, and the cold could be a constant problem, even in the summer. It was a part of life, a constant low-grade discomfort that people just learned to live with. It was a part of the landscape, a part of the air. You move to the hearth, your bare feet are shocking cold against the mud floor. You crouch down and you carefully push away the ash, revealing the glowing coals. You gently blow on them, a small intimate act that brings a little bit of life back to the embers. A tiny flame appears, and you feed it a few small twigs, watching it grow and grow. The warmth is a slow, gradual thing, a precious gift that you have to work for. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some northern cultures, people would have a small portable stove or brazier, a container of hot coals that they could carry with them to provide a little bit of warmth while they worked. It was a small, ingenious solution to a major problem, a way of carrying a little bit of the hearth's warmth with you wherever you went. Historians still argue about the true psychological impact of this constant exposure to cold. Did it make people stronger? Did it make them more resilient? Or did it just wear them down, a slow, constant assault on their bodies and their spirits? We can never know for sure, but we can imagine that it was a little bit of both. You are a person who has learned to live with the cold. You have built up a kind of resilience, a kind of stoicism that allows you to face the day with a grim determination. The cold is not just a physical sensation, it's also a reminder of the work that you have to do. The fields are frozen, the animals are cold, the world is waiting for you, and it is a world of hardship and struggle. You have no time to sit around and complain. You have to get up and get to work. Your survival depends on it. You put on your rough woolen tunic, a cold, scratchy sensation against your skin. You put on your hose and your shoes. You're dressing for battle, a daily battle against the elements. The hut, which was a sanctuary just a few hours ago, is now just a starting point, a place that you must leave in order to survive. The door is a heavy wooden thing, and when you push it open, a blast of icy air hits you in the face. It's a shocking, brutal contrast to the dim, smoky warmth of the hut. The world outside is a silent white landscape, a world that is still asleep. But you are not. You are awake. You are alive. You are a person who has made it through the night, and that, in itself, is a victory. It's a little dark joke that the reward for surviving the night is to go out and face the day, which is just as cold and just as difficult. But you don't mind, you are just happy to be alive. You're outside now, in the cold, silent world, and the contrast is a physical shock. The air is sharp and clean, a welcome relief from the smoky gloom of the hut. But it is also biting, a cruel reminder of the season. You're in the middle of winter, and the world is a cold, indifferent place. You look at the sky, a pale, anemic grey, and you feel a deep, aching longing for the sun. This isn't just a desire for warmth, it's a longing for life, for growth. for a world that isn't trying to kill you. The winter is not just a season, it's a state of being. It's a time of scarcity, of hardship, of a constant low-grade fear. Every day is a struggle to find food, to stay warm, to keep your family alive. The world outside is a silent, frozen landscape. A world without colour, without sound, without hope. The fields are a desolate waste, the trees are bare and skeletal, and the lakes and rivers are solid ice. It's a world that is dead, and you're just a small, insignificant piece of life in the middle of it. But you have hope. You have a deep, abiding faith that the winter will not last forever. You carry with you the memory of the summer, a beautiful, vibrant dream of a world that is full of life. You remember the feeling of the sun on your skin, the warmth of the earth under your feet, the sound of the birds singing in the trees. You remember the joy of the harvest, the sight of the fields full of golden grain, the taste of fresh-picked vegetables. This memory is your shield, your comfort, your reason for being. It is the fuel that keeps you going. A mainstream historical fact is that in medieval society, the seasons dictated every aspect of life. The year was a cycle of life and death, of abundance and scarcity, and the winter was the time of death. The people of this time were deeply attuned to the rhythms of the earth, and they knew that the winter was a time of rest, a time of waiting, a time of enduring. But they also knew that it was not permanent. They had a profound understanding of the natural world, a knowledge that had been passed down from generation to generation. A quirky or fringe tidbit is that in some northern regions people would have sunstones, or other talismans that they believed would help to bring the sun back. They were small, personal rituals, little acts of magic that were a way of giving themselves a sense of control in a world that was completely out of their hands. It was a way of saying, I believe in the sun. I believe that it will return. It was a small, personal act of rebellion against the cold. Historians still argue about the true nature of this longing for the sun. Was it a religious longing, a yearning for a kind of spiritual rebirth? Or was it just a simple, human desire for warmth and comfort? The answer is likely a little bit of both. You're not a theologian. You're just a peasant. You don't have time to think about abstract concepts. You just know that you want to be warm. You just know that you want the world to be green again. The longing for the sun is a constant low-grade ache. You feel it every time you step outside. You feel it every time you look at the sky. You feel it every time you see a frozen field. It's a part of you, a part of your being. It's a kind of constant silent prayer that you offer to the world. But there is a strange beauty in the winter too. The world is silent, and it is a powerful, profound silence. The snow-covered landscape is a work of art, a world of black and white, a world without distraction. It's a time for quiet contemplation, a time for reflection. You can think about your life, about your family, about your place in the world. The winter is a time of waiting, but it's also a time of growth. You're not just surviving, you're learning. You're becoming stronger. You look at the cold, unforgiving landscape, and you are not afraid. You're a person who has made it through the night. You're a person who has survived the cold. You have a hut that is a sanctuary. You have a family that is a source of warmth. You have a memory of the summer that is a source of hope. And you have a deep, abiding faith that the sun will return. The long, hard, dark journey of the winter is far from over, but you know you will make it. You will endure. And when the first flower breaks through the frozen ground and the first bird sings its song, you will be there. You will be a testament to the fact that even in the darkest of times, life, no matter how fragile, will always find a way to survive. Now, as the warmth from your body slowly dissipates into the chill morning air, you can feel your eyelids growing heavy once more. The sound of a lone bird's call is a small, gentle promise that another day is dawning. It's time to let go of the long, hard journey of the night and to simply be. The world outside can wait. For now you are safe, you are warm, and you are here. Feel the stillness of the air and the soft hum of the world. Let it all dissolve into the stillness of your mind, a quiet space where there is no cold, no worry, no past, and no future. Just this moment, just this piece. End of script. Sweet dreams. Word count 2008. Continue. Full 2,000 to 2,100 words, no conversation, no search. Final 300-word wind down. You've made it through the night. The sun A cold and distant promise is finally on its way. The long journey through the darkness is coming to an end. It's time to let go of the struggle, of the cold, of the worries about tomorrow, the memory of the hearth, the warmth of your family, the simple reality of your straw sack. Let it all fade now. The sounds of the mice, the lowing of the cow, the soft breathing of your family, let them all dissolve into the stillness of your mind. You're safe. You are here. There is no cold, no worry, no hunger. Just this moment, just this peace. The world outside, with its biting wind and its endless work, can wait. For now you are a person who is at rest. You have endured. You have survived. And in this small, quiet moment, that is enough. Feel the stillness of the air and the soft hum of the world. Let it all dissolve into the stillness of your mind, a quiet space where there is no cold, no worry, no past and no future. Just this moment, just this peace. Let your eyes grow heavy, your muscles relax and your mind grow quiet. The journey is over for now.